I would say that the first change that I made in my house was after interviewing a leading researcher on resilience who was studying this achievement pressure. And I said to her, okay, what do I do if I know I'm raising my kids in this environment, this excessive pressure in the environment? She said, home needs to be a haven from the pressure. It
Yeah.
needs to be a place where your kids can recover from the messages in the wider media, on social media, the stress with their peers, parents. You as a parent have already, not every parent, but I and probably about the top 25% of household incomes, which is roughly 150,000 a year combined income, you're putting your kids, if you're going to these high achieving communities, in an environment that is activating those extrinsic values day in and day out. You just by having them in these good, quote unquote, good public or private schools, they already know you want them to achieve. They don't need to hear it more from you. What they need instead is for you to allow home to be a place to recover, to minimize criticism, to prioritize affection, to greet your kids once a day the way the family dog greets you, with total joy. So much of our lives as adults, as parents, is getting through our to-do list. Let our kids see the delight that we have in them. Now, if you do have a kid who appears not to be motivated or isn't living up to their expectations, how we communicate our disappointment matters here. So if you have a child who's not performing, get curious, not furious. Dig deeper. What is it? All kids want to do well. All humans want to do well. We are wired to want to do well, to want to contribute. So if your child isn't, try to figure out what is holding them back. Is it a learning difference? Is it a peer issue that they don't feel close to their classmates, or a relationship with a teacher that's not strong that could be impacting their learning? And if you've done all of that and you've gotten curious, not furious, some kids just need more scaffolding. And so teach them how work gets done. Focus on how work gets done instead of the shiny outcomes. That is how we separate achievement from worth.
What are some of the ideas for scaffolding that we can give our kids across the board, whether it's around relationship or work ethic, scaffolding to help them, as you say, be a healthy striver? And I differentiate being having drive versus being driven. That's how I think about healthy striving.
I like that. I would say the first piece of advice I would have is to adopt a mantra that we've adopted in our family, which I heard from Ned Hallowell, who's a psychiatrist, and that is to never worry alone.
Mm.
So whether it is struggling in friendship, whether it is struggling academically, whether it is struggling with self-esteem, we suffer more than we have to if we don't reach out. So I think the first step is to tell our young people that they are worthy of support and to never worry alone and to model it. And I model it in front of my kids. When I'm going through something hard, I call my best friends and I say, talk this through with me. How should I be thinking about this? I misstepped. I messed up. How would you handle it? And also modeling when you mess up on something. I've started now living my life out loud with my kids. And I'll say to myself, oh, I know better than this. Why did I do this? Oh, man. And I'll think about it. Well, I didn't sleep well and whatever it was. And then I'll say, okay, I've beaten myself up enough. Now time to move on. And when they beat themselves up in front of me, when they say, oh, I bombed this test. Why didn't I study in a better way, or this or that? And I'll say to them, please don't talk to my child like that. Don't talk to my child like that. And it catches them in their tracks.
I love that. I say that to myself. Am I talking to myself the way my best friend would talk to me?
Yes. And I hope they will remember that. I hope that sort of self-criticism is inevitable because of our negativity bias and being focused on the negative from an evolutionary perspective, because that's what helped us survive.
Yep.
But it's one thing to know the negative and then to show ourselves compassion for it. Like you said, the way your best friend would. So noting it and then getting curious about it. Why did I do that? What was triggered in me? What was I thinking? Did I not rest? Did I not have a good meal? Did someone say something that reminded me of something in my childhood or whatever it was? What was triggering me in that moment? And I think if we could take a lens of curiosity with ourselves and with our kids, and also with the people in our lives, that is how we stop reacting. We stop personalizing things that really we would do better to put them into context.